Is your internal navigation system all messed up? Today, we got a special guest that's going to join us, and we're going to chat about your internal navigation system.
I've spent the last 20 years studying, teaching, and coaching people to find their greatness and take their lives to the next level. Along the way, it's become evident that emotions are at the root of everybody's successes and failures. Worry and fear are the enemies, and it's time to forge the armor and earn the tools to overcome the two things that could single-handedly destroy your future. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson, and I'm a life coach, a peak performance trainer, and I'm the emotions guy. It's time to take back control of how you feel, control of how you act, and control of how you experience life. It's time to become a lifer, a new breed of overachiever focused on living every minute to its fullest. We are responsible for how we feel, and no one and no thing can make us feel anything. Emotional mastery is our journey, and emotional education and intelligence is the key. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast. I'm excited that you joined me today because we have a special guest. Every now and then, Miss Nikki J comes and joins us. And we're going to chat with you today a little bit about your internal navigation system. This is huge because in so many instances, we are relying on our, let's say, Google Maps to get us from point A to point B. You've been in the car when somebody's used Google Maps before, right?
Yeah, yep.
It's interesting because you type in the address and you say, I want to go from here to there, and it starts to navigate you to that place. Now, you just recently got your driver's permit. I guess that was a year ago. And now you're studying to take your driver's test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you've started to drive a little bit more. And how does it feel when you're driving? Because you're having to practice a lot. So how does it feel when you're driving and you don't feel like you know where you're going, right? But maybe me or mom knows where we're going in the car, right? But you don't know where you're going. So how does that feel? Describe that feeling of being in the car going, well, I know I'm supposed to know where I'm going, but I have no clue how to, where to go.
It's really stressful. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to listen to like my mom in the back seat, my dad in the passenger seat? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, the navigation system's telling me to go this way, and then there's myself telling me to go another way, and it's like all these different opinions, and it's like, what do I listen to?
Well, it's a lot to take in, especially when you're learning how to drive the car. And so there's a lot of metaphors here that we've got to unpack. One of them is, in so many instances, we've got to learn how to work our vehicle, right? And our vehicle is this system that says, hey, I know how to get there. Now, we have two vehicles here in this particular setting, and we have a navigation system. So we have three functioning vehicles that are at play. Our own internal self, right? Our vehicle of our body. We've got the car that we have to learn to operate and figure out how to deal with. And we've got the navigation of Google Maps saying, turn right here. And you're thinking, and mom's like, no, go straight. There's a better way to get there. And you're like, but the navigation says turn right. Shouldn't I do what it says? No, do it this way. I know better, mom says, or I say, right?
Yeah.
That's a little weird, but let's take those three things. Now, remember, all things that are created in our world are created in the likeness of man. I know that sounds like a strange idea, but like, let's take something simple, like maybe this mouse, okay? And you had it here on your floor to use your computer. And we all use a mouse. And this mouse, you might think, well, how could that possibly be created in the likeness of man? Well, it's created in that likeness because in your mind's eye, you take and you navigate around. It's like there's a little pointer, and you navigate around inside your internal self. And when you want to do something, you double click on that program, and the program runs instantly, we hope, right? And so you take something like blinking. You probably don't tell yourself to blink. And if you're watching this on video, now you're thinking, are they going to blink? We'll have a staring contest. But I didn't say not to blink. I didn't say to blink. It's just happening. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. But I've now pulled your attention to it. So you have a little mouse inside your mind's eye, and it goes around and clicks on the program and runs the program. And so it acts a lot like this, right? In fact, Windows and your computer, whether you're using a Mac or whether you're using a PC, has little icons, and you double click on the icons and it opens really fast now. And if it doesn't open fast enough, we get annoyed. Right? But think about it this way, you have that ability to do that inside your mind. And that's what somebody created. They said, hey, I want to be able to do this faster than my own system can do it. However, we rarely can find things that are faster than the human mind. In fact, the fastest computer is still not as fast as our brain, which is pretty crazy. And you might think, well, yeah, but it can do these calculations faster. Yes, but think about this. Your body can do millions of things all instantaneously. You don't have to think of an iota about it. Now, your conscious mind isn't nearly as good, but your subconscious is pretty dang good. It can do things that you don't even know it's doing. In fact, it can do a whole set of things behind the scenes, and you don't know it's doing it. The car is the same way. We create the car, you turn on the car, and when the car turns on, there are all these subsystems, all these things in your car that do stuff that you have no idea what it's doing. You really don't. You have zero idea. Now, the navigation, the Google Maps that we take so for granted these days, you turn that on, and it is doing millions of things in the background, sort of like a subconscious. So all these things are in the likeness of the human race, right? Because we build things that are like ourselves, and we try to make it so that they're easier, faster, so that we are, well, we can be lazier. I mean that in the most positive way, okay? Now, what happens is you have this navigation system, and it really does represent something that we do. So what is it? Well, you have what I call an emotional operating system. That sounds deep. What's an emotional operating system from your perspective?
The operating system for your emotions. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's pretty simple, right? Like it's pretty straightforward. What do you think it does?
Operates your emotions.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Why would that be? Why would that be a useful system for us to have?
So that we can learn how to use our emotions. I don't know.
Well, and emotions are
So
the
that
core
it's there.
of everything that we do.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here on the floor in your cool room that you've created for yourself, your little space in your world. And we are sitting here leaning against one of your favorite chairs, and we're just chilling and having a conversation with all of you guys. And we wanted to be in a place that was warm and comfortable. And I don't mean warm temperature wise, I mean a setting where it was comfortable to talk to you guys about your emotional operating system and this navigation system that you have built in that you don't typically think about. Now, here's the unfortunate part: people don't teach people how to use their navigation system, their emotional operating system. It's not something you learned in elementary school. It's not something you learned in middle school or high school or even college. In fact, unless you went in and studied it, it's likely that you didn't actually learn how to do it formally anywhere. But what you did do was you learned how to use it along the way based off of what your parents taught you, what your teachers taught you, what your friends taught you, what your boyfriends or girlfriends taught you, about what other people, what social media taught you, what music taught you, what movies taught you.
The outside world.
The outside world. And so that outside world that we are part of taught us how to utilize our emotional operating system. Now that's interesting, right? Because that means that maybe you didn't do it all. Maybe you learned it along the way, but you didn't actually create that. Maybe it wasn't taught to you on purpose. And unfortunately, life is like the telephone game. We've played the telephone game. Mm-hmm. How well does that go at the kitchen table when we play the telephone game? Where there's only 6 of us in the family, right?
Yeah.
Do we ever get all the way around with it working?
No, not
And
once.
we're pretty good communicating family. I mean, like we talk about language a lot, and it's
Yeah.
still difficult. Usually at about the second or third it gets jacked, and then the message starts to go off. If you haven't played the telephone game, I highly recommend. In fact, I'm challenging you to go play the telephone game with your family or some of your friends. And that just basically is this. You get in a circle, you one person thinks of a message, a topic, a subject, a phrase, you whisper it into the ear of the other person. They then take that message and whisper it into the ear of the other person, and it tries to go all the way back around. And when it gets to the last person, that last person says it out loud, and you will have a laugh of the century.
Yeah.
Because it's always funny. You just are like, how in the world did that message turn into that? And so you can imagine, with centuries of humans being on this earth, how many times the telephone game has been jacked up. People say, well, I wrote it down, so I absolutely got it right.
No.
No, even when you write it down. So essentially, your navigation system kind of operates the same way. You take in this information, you take in new knowledge, and as you start to go out to share this information, it gets watered down or changed or slightly skewed a little bit. And so we're constantly looking for truth in our journey. And one of the only things that we can do to navigate this is listen to our internal emotional operating system, which acts as a navigator. We say, hey, I want to go that direction. I want to go from here to here. I want to accomplish that thing, and it's out ahead, and we have a gap between where we're at and where we're going. And as we go to take on this gap, essentially what happens is our navigation system, our emotions start to tell us whether it's a plus or a minus. So how would you know if it was if your navigation system, your emotional operating system, was telling you, hey, don't go that direction? What would be the indication?
Conflict
Conflict?
for me, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe stress? Maybe
Uh,
feeling negative emotions?
just not knowing what to do.
Right. And so those negative emotions become something that indicate to us that it is something we don't want, right? And so as we find out what we don't want, most people get stuck in the mire of what we don't want, and they start focusing on it, and then they start throwing tantrums about it, going, I don't want this. And so they get more and more negative about the thing that they're negative about, right? And then it fuels itself, and now
And more things start to come
and then
off of
more things
that.
start to come off of that, right? Because you are now negative, and so then it builds more negative, and so it gets more negative, and then the emotional operating system starts to go, oh, you mean you really wanted to go that way because you're putting all your focus and energy into something like sad. Let's take
So it
sad.
gives you what you want.
Right, because that's what the navigation system is designed to do. It's designed to take you to whatever address you put into the navigation system. So if I put Disneyland in, the system, and you've all used Google Maps, the system is designed to take you to Disneyland no matter what. So if you take a right turn and you were supposed to go straight, it'll be like, do a U-turn immediately. Turn around, turn around, turn around.
Error.
You're going the wrong direction. You're going the wrong direction. And as it does that, you felt this. All of you have felt this. You're in the car, and all of a sudden you're getting stressed because the Google lady is saying, turn around, do a U-turn, take your next turn, go back. And you're like, oh, stop. And it naturally stresses you out. And so what we want to do is we want to start to think about our own navigation system, our emotional operating system, in the same way. If you put in something negative, it's like taking the Disneyland address out and putting in the sad address in. And so the natural thing that happens is the navigation system starts taking you more towards sad. And you think, well, I don't want to be sad. Okay, well, what do you want? And remember, if you've listened to my podcast ever, if you've listened to me speak ever, you know that one of the things I constantly am asking is, what do you want? Seems like it's a lot easier than it is.
It's
But
a hard question.
it's a lot easier when you start to realize that when you know exactly what you don't want, you actually know exactly what you do want. And so, as soon as you possibly can, and this is what we'll leave you with today, because this emotional navigation system is not, it's not just a simple, it's a little complicated, but only a little. I mean, once you understand and you get the feeling of how it works, you start to realize, okay, it's actually operating well. We need this system to tell us that we're on track towards what we're going after. So when something negative happens, if we're sad, right, then what we're actually feeling from our own navigation system is we're feeling Google saying, hey, take a U-turn, go the other direction. And so when you start to feel sad, the sooner you can identify what it is you do want, the sooner you can start heading back to Disneyland. That was a little bit of a complicated metaphor there, but I think you follow me, right? So let's say if you're feeling sad, the first thing you think is, what do I want to feel instead? That seems so simplistic and easy. And in the moments, it's a lot harder to do, right? Unless you've had practice, like anything, you practice free throw and you don't have to think about it, right?
And you have to ask yourself if you actually want it. Like, if you're saying to yourself, I want to be happy, but you really don't want to be happy, then it's not going to work. Like, right. You can't just cheat your way through it.
Yeah. Well, it might be something more more complicated than happy. I think sometimes we oversimplify things to just be like, well, I just want to be happy. And then you go, well, no, I don't. I actually would rather be sad right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want to feel something. Right? So we have to decide what we do want and then start to put more focus on what we do want than what we're getting, which is what we don't want, and make the shift as soon as possible. This is your challenge, right? And so next time you start to feel something on the negative or on the darker side of the emotions, I want you to try to identify what it is that you're feeling and say, okay, what is this telling me I don't want? Well, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to experience this. What do you want instead? Well, I'd rather experience this, and start heading towards the thing you do want. All right, that was fun. Go get your emotional navigation system on track. If you need some help, let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, let us know what you think. Leave us a rating on Apple iTunes if you are so inclined. And of course, if anybody needs this message, please feel free to share it with them. #Magic for Life, and we will see you on the next episode.
Hey lifers, don't forget to get your free copy of the Every Minute book. You can find it at everyminutebook.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.